Welcome back, everybody. Before we get to this month's mission, we have to discuss some additions to our roster. Chapter 6 is a great time to start recruiting people. The other students have finally started promoting into their intermediate classes, and that's a big deal. To see why, let's take Petra as an example. Here I have Petra's innate growth rates, and I presented the stats she would expect to have, on average, if you pick the Black Eagle house and sent her through her default classes. Commoner to level 5, then Myrmidon to level 10, and finally Thief for one more level. Stats for out-of-house recruits don't work this way. Instead, the game treats them as though they've actually been in their new class since level 1, so instead of 4 levels in Commoner or Noble and another 5 in a beginner class, they get the benefit of superior intermediate class growths for every level. On top of that, 3 houses uses 2 different sets of class growths, one for your units and another for enemies. Out-of-house recruits come with stats based on the enemy growths, which are better almost across the board. The difference isn't that strong for beginner classes, but in the intermediate tier, the effect is very pronounced. When you recruit in Chapter 6, your new team members benefit from 10 levels of boosted growth, so they tend to have pretty good stats compared to your existing team. The catch is that they're a little behind on skill points, since they haven't gotten any tutoring, and they've only improved their default goals. Also, they have 0 class mastery points. You can wait until later for even better stats as your recruits auto-level higher, but that makes the trade-off in skill and mastery points much more extreme. I'm satisfied with the stats I can get now, and it's important to me to start training skills beyond the defaults. Accordingly, I've gone ahead and added 3 new people to the roster. If you couldn't guess, Petra's one of them. With auto levels in Thief, she's an absolute speed demon, and her other base stats are pretty good too. Since she trains in axes by default, it's easy to make her qualify for Armor Knight this month, granting her an extra 3 defense. With that, her base stats are excellent all around. Ingrid is often noted as one of the greatest beneficiaries of enemy class growths because enemy Pegasus Knights are treated like an advanced tier class. But when they're both recruited in Chapter 6, Petra's stats are better than most of Ingrid's. On top of her speed, a strength and flying makes Petra a great candidate for a dodge tank build. In a couple chapters, you can start putting together the basics for that, earning Alert Stance, an Evasion Ring, more good flying battalions, and potentially some breaker abilities to combine with her natural avoidance. What makes Petra especially good at dodge tanking is that she also gets Battalion Wrath at Sea Authority. Really high avoid can completely negate all incoming damage, so that your wounded battalion isn't in danger of getting depleted, and all your counterattacks have hugely boosted crit rate. The combination is cool, but it doesn't really come into its own until you get access to the Retribution Gambit and Alert Stance Plus. Flying battalions with crit bonuses are also pretty rare, and 2 of them are exclusive to the Black Eagles. Petra's best option on this route is the C-Rank Alliance Wyvern Company, which has 5 crit and 10 avoid. Dodge tanks also tend not to have spare ability slots for crit plus 10, and they're usually carrying an evasion ring, not a critical ring. So it can be hard for them to get 100% crit even with Battalion Wrath active. The good news is that unlike Vantage Wrath builds, Avoid plus Battalion Wrath does not depend on always killing with a single counterattack. You can get doubled and still live by dodging both hits. Or if you double, which Petra often does, you can just dodge the one attack and potentially kill in return without landing any crits at all. Later on, I'll have to decide exactly what weapon I want Petra to specialize in. Swords have the most avoid from their prowess ability, and the Wodow Plus is a great weapon. It offers 5 extra crit compared to most forged killer weapons, and its weight is negligible. Petra's sword combat arts are her best ones, too. On the other hand, there's no flying class with Swordfare. Because of that, lances and axes can have a lot more raw power. I think the best way to illustrate this is with some data. Let's suppose we have a level 35 Falcon Knight Petra with A+ ranks in swords, lances, and axes. She's leading the Alliance Wyvern Company at 1/3 of its endurance, she's holding an evasion ring, and she has 5 abilities equipped: Weapon Prowess, Alert Stance Plus, Battalion Wrath, Hit plus 20, and Defiant Avo. Assuming that she gets 0 stat boosters and gains all her levels in Thief, Pegasus Knight, Wyvern Rider, and then Falcon Knight, here are Petra's relevant stats when she's wielding the Wodow Plus. Notice that she gets her full 39 speed as attack speed, because her weapon only has 5 weight. That 39 AS is good for 119 avoid, or 149 when Defiant Avo is active. She also has 120 crit on enemy phase thanks to Battalion Wrath, and she can expect about 41 attack total, with 27 strength, 5 from her battalion, and 9 from the might of her sword. Compare with some representative enemies from 3 late game chapters. Petra has really good chances to dodge all 3, ignoring the Paladin's Swordbreaker possibility for the moment. Her counterattack is probably going to land, and her crit rate is in the mid-90s. All of that is awesome. But there's one problem. These enemies all have 32 protection, and that's just about the bare minimum for physical enemies this late in the game. If Petra only has 41 attack, she deals just 9 damage, or 27 on a crit. Even if she doubles and crits twice, she's not killing anyone. And if you look at those AS values, doubling is not always a sure thing on Maddening. The threshold to kill each of these foes with 1 crit is more than 10 points away. So this Petra can dodge well enough to fight a ton of enemies without taking a scratch, but if you're interested in one-rounding them, she's not strong enough. What if she switches to lances? When using a Killer Lance Plus, Petra gives up 5 hit, 5 crit, and 11 avoid, partly due to the extra weight, in exchange for 6 more damage. If she were to class change to Wyvern Lord and wield a forged Killer Axe, she'd end up losing 6 more avoid due to the lower avoid bonus with axe prowess and her class's lower speed bonus, but she would gain another 5 points of damage. Alternatively, she can use swords as a Wyvern Lord. In that case, she gets 3 more strength than in Falcon Knight and just slightly less speed. That could be a great idea, especially when Falcon Knight's sword experience bonus isn't relevant anymore. In the end, the choice comes down to what exactly we want Petra to do. If the only goal is to dodge every attack coming her way, and hitting for big damage is just a bonus, then swords are the clear best choice, and Petra might not even need retribution support. She can achieve so much more than that, but it'll require some kind of sacrifice. That could mean accepting less reliability, or giving her rally support, or feeding her a lot of strength or speed boosters, or some combination of all of these. Of the 4 Ashen Wolves, Balthus is the only one with Golden Deer supports, namely with Claude, Lysithea, and Hilda. He and Hilda give each other bonus damage on linked attacks, just like Hilda and Claude, and Raphael and Ignatz do. Balthus has a lot of overlap with Raphael, with all his skill strengths and more, a budding talent in Reason, and a similar stat line. Balthus has lower HP, dexterity, and luck growths, but he has noticeably more speed, magic, and resistance. More importantly, he auto-levels in the Brawler class, so his HP, strength, dex, speed, and defense all get sizable boosts. In effect, even though he has overall worse growth than Raphael for a brawling specialist, his base stats upon joining are much better, especially in speed. Also, I can't leave out Balthus' crest and personal ability. The major crest of Chevalier is like Claude's crest of Regan. It heals when using combat arts. It's not that strong on Claude, but Balthus' major crest activates 50% of the time, and he also gets the Draining Blow combat art for gauntlets. Combined, their 2 healing effects give Balthus great sustainability. Whereas his crest keeps him healthy, Balthus' personal ability, King of Grappling, makes him both stronger and tougher at low HP. You can try to abuse this with things like Vantage and Wrath and Defiant Strength, but I don't think Balthus is a great candidate for that. He's not able to maintain the hit and crit rates you really want to see in someone going for that sort of build. However, King of Grappling and the Crest of Chevalier have a certain counterintuitive synergy. Slap a heavy shield and a good defensive battalion on Balthus, and then send him off alone. Whenever his health gets low, the spike to his defense stat reduces most incoming damage to negligible levels, and the strength boost makes his gauntlets into respectable enemy phase weapons. On the next turn, simply Draining Blow someone to heal right back up. These tactics work especially well in the remainder of Part 1, before enemies are all in advanced classes and their stats start ballooning out of control. Balthus' canonical class is War Monk. He doesn't naturally have the magic you'd like to see on a spellcaster, but he does make a reasonable off-healer with 10 heal uses and 5 charges of Restore. I intend to make Balthus perform as well as he possibly can in the class, though I acknowledge that he may be better off spending more time in Grappler to abuse Fierce Iron Fist. Last is Ferdinand. He is one of 3 units with access to the Swift Strike's combat art for lances, which has a brave effect just like Hunter's Volley. It combines especially well with his minor crest of Keyhole, which completely prevents enemy counterattacks 30% of the time. Since the crest can trigger on any hit, he effectively gets a 51% chance to take no damage when using Swift Strikes, even in cases when the 2 hits fail to kill. I really like Ferdinand as a unit, and I do wish I could fit him on the duty roster more. But the deployment limit for most missions is between 10 and 12, plus up to 3 adjutants. Ferdinand is my 13th team member, but I'm going to recruit 2 more people to the active roster eventually, and he's going to slip to the 15th spot. In my experience, 14 is just about the limit for the number of people you can seriously train in a campaign. For that reason, I'm not going to make Ferdinand a flyer. Instead, I'll be sending him down the armor class line. He'll be more a guest star than a full-fledged team member, mostly appearing on guard adjutant duty, particularly for Lawrence. The 2 of them have a special link bonus, just like Balthus does with Hilda, although in this case, their support chain only goes up to B rank. In order to recruit Ferdinand, you always have to get at least D+ armor, since his B support is locked until after the time skip. I don't even think of this as much of an opportunity cost, simply because weight -3 is so powerful on Byleth, and getting it lets him accelerate other people up to C armor rank as well. So that's everyone for this month. I'm going to fill 2 more slots on my active roster with 2 characters who have some kind of unique story relevance in this route. I'm going to acquire the other recruitable characters as well, but none of them will have any major role. I think only 2 of them will ever appear outside their own paralogs. If you've gained anything from this, and you want to keep following this playthrough, please subscribe. Next time, we enter an underground chamber to rescue Flame from the clutches of the Death Knight. See you there.